All right, welcome to this very episode of what is now called the Miami Video Podcast. Let me explain. Yes, it is true. We are changing the name of the podcast. It's going to take a completely different episode to really dive into why we're doing this move. But basically, after speaking with counselors, advisors, mentors, and even pastors of mine, successful business people, I've made a decision to completely rebrand my business and everything that I do. There's just a lot of things that I was doing. My business, the podcast, a blog, the film school account, way too many things for them to have their own separate entity. And yes, my business and what I want to continue to do is my production company, which up until now has been Ariel Martinez Films. So now I am completely doing a rebrand, a refresh, not starting from scratch, but just kind of point everything in the same direction. So the name of my new company, same company, the new name of the company is Miami Video Services. Yes, I am very much targeting a lot of Miami productions. Doesn't mean that I can't travel or do those kinds of jobs, because I still have the same clientele, but I've never ever put effort into marketing locally. So here I am kind of explaining what I said it was going to take forever, but essentially know that it's just the name of my new company, and therefore I needed a way to bring the podcast under my company and sort of continue to have everything flowing through the same channel over to kind of the same base. It was just getting way too much. The podcast had its own website, film school had its own website, my business has its own website, and it was just getting way too much. So I kind of need to consolidate just about everything that we're doing. So from now moving forward, this is no longer the iFilmmaker podcast. This is now going to be called the Miami Video Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. My name's Ariel Martinez. And by the way, nothing changes. And as far as the content here, everything's going to stay the same. The only thing that's going to be changing is the name. That is all. And of course, the logo and whatnot. And as you can see, we've embraced Miami. I am born and raised in Miami. These are my colors, and I'm basically embracing all of what Miami is. And I know it has a big old Miami Vice type of vibe going on, but this is it. This is the Miami Video Podcast. So thank you guys for sticking on. And it's funny because I'm very excited about this. I now finally feel like, yes, I'm putting more effort toward my business, not just effort toward a bunch of different entities and pushing too many things in too many directions, and everything's going in one direction. And that's kind of the advice that I was receiving. And by the way, speaking of advice and just talking to other people, I recommend you guys do that as well. The people that you seek advice from, they don't have to be professionals in your industry, in this industry. I get advice from people that own IT companies, that do software development, that do arts and graphics and just different things. But the fact is, they can still help me. I can still get a bunch of nuggets from all these successful business people. There's no reason why I can't take advice from them to help me run my business successfully. So I've been doing it my entire career, and this is just another step that I am taking in order to continue moving forward. And basically things can continue to expand under my name. My company has gotten bigger than just me, so I needed a way to scale and grow, and that was the advice that was given to me. Anyways, again, I'm not gonna go too in depth with this, but Miami Video Podcast, welcome everyone to the show. So on this episode, I was able to get my friend Tony Reyes. I've been following Tony for a long time on social media. The guy does incredible work. He's all over the place. I see him all the time on NFL sidelines. The guy is just doing phenomenal work. And most recently, actually, as of recording this podcast, he's actually joining us from Beijing, China, where he's actually covering the Winter Olympics, which is insane. And we're like basically a whole day apart in terms of timing and whatnot. He's on the other side of the world. So I appreciate Tony taking the time to sit down with me and discuss basically his scope of work as a Steadicam operator. So this is going to be part of a series of industry professionals that I want to continue to do on this podcast. I've done audio before. I've done I think another audio one as well. And I want to continue to bring industry professionals to kind of speak on that specific niche of the industry. And this one, we're talking about Steadicam operating. I actually used to want to be a Steadicam operator myself, but I kind of just kept gravitating toward what I do now. And that's kind of what I just enjoy doing. But I love Steadicam operating. I've done it maybe a couple times. It wasn't my Steadicam, of course, but it was fun. I liked it. So Tony Reyes is someone that is just killing it right now, killing it, doing a phenomenal job, just all over the place. And I appreciate him taking the time out over from the other side of the world to sit down with us and talk and answer a few questions. And I love his responses. Actually, he gave some great stuff on how to make friendships, how to network, how even film school was beneficial for him. And he just shares a lot of great knowledge and nuggets on that. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I'll see you on the other side. Tony Reyes, thanks so much for coming on the iFilmmaker podcast. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
It's so exciting that you are at the Beijing Olympics while we're recording this. I think that is so cool, and we definitely want to get into that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty bizarre. I know we were speaking a second ago. I think 6,000 something miles away, and plus 13 hours from where you are in Eastern time right
Right.
now. So yeah, I
That's
just got done
so
eating
cool.
dinner.
Oh man, you just got that. What time is it over there right now?
So it's about to be 9 p.m. here.
9 p.m. and it is
9 p.m.
8
Tuesday.
on Tuesday. It is 8 a.m. right now on Tuesday where I am.
Yeah, I'm glad
Jeez.
this worked out. I've actually last week I missed a meeting like this because I completely I thought it was the next day. So
I bet that can get quite annoying.
it is, yeah. And then even like I try to still stay engaged with clients at home and
Yeah.
communicate with them, but I'm sending text messages at like 4 a.m. or trying to still be receptive and engaged with
Oh man.
my work. Yeah, it's
Oh,
wild.
geez. Well, I'm glad we were able to make this work. I appreciate you taking the time out and and coming on the show and talking about your scope of work and whatnot. Um, so obviously with this episode, I want to kind of go into and discover your work as a Steadicam operator.
Hmm.
But before we get into that, I would like to see how you got started in the industry. With what you got started, were you a camera operator first? How did
Hmm.
you sort of transition over to being a Steadicam operator?
Okay. So I let's see. I mean, I could go all the way back. Like, did some video photography or video
There you go.
videography type classes in high school. My art teacher helped, start the program at our school. So that was junior and senior year. Then I went
Okay.
to college at Middle Tennessee State University, MTSU,
Nice.
and did their TV production program with a minor in film studies. And then I also did two internships with a small production company out in San Diego. Um, and that guy he was kind of my mentor at the time. He wanted me to be a camera assistant. Um, so he kind of pushed me in that direction. And he told me to go get a job at a rental house, a camera rental house in town. And this was probably 2006, I think, 2005, 2006. But
Right.
either way, I got out of, or I graduated MTSU. I went into the production industry in 2008, and I worked as a production assistant, a PA, for about 2.5 years. And then maybe at the end of that 2 years or so, I went into, kind of low level type camera work,
Okay.
um, and, low level ish, grip type work.
Sure.
And then you're getting kind of the long story here, by the way.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm loving it. It's all
uh,
right. We can always
yeah.
edit if we need to. I don't see
Okay.
why we would.
Okay. Great. Good. Good. But from there, I would say like a big break for me is I started doing some touring.
Okay.
In my market, it's kind of a big touring type market, like on with a band or a corporate, event or speaker or something. Um, but I was on a Christian women's conference called Women of Faith. I did that for about 2.5 years, and I basically saved up enough money to buy my first Steadicam. And
Whew. Very
I bought
nice.
an old used Master Series Steadicam. I saved up about 12,000 bucks and bought
Okay.
something, and
That's
you
phenomenal.
know, yeah, some of it was working, some of it wasn't, and I didn't know any better anyways. So,
Yeah.
um, but it was the right kind of gear, at the time, to just dive in and go for it.
Right.
Um, I I wish I could say that, I didn't really have like a relative that was in the industry. I didn't know a Steadicam operator necessarily, like they weren't all around me. Um,
Okay.
uh, but I sort of just took the plunge, and went for it. And I should say, there's a like amazing Steadicam operator. His name's John Perry,
Okay.
who does a lot of live stuff. He did like, American Idol when American Idol was huge.
Right.
Um, and he's a phenomenal live Steadicam operator. I mean, probably, I don't know, top 10, top five in the world in my eyes for live stuff,
Wow.
especially.
For
Yeah.
live stuff.
Yeah, live in particular.
Very
But
interesting. And
yeah,
how did you decide Steadicam is the way to go? Like, did you see someone operating at some point and decided, man, I want to try that?
I would say the first time I can remember it being even just sort of an idea was, doing that internship. I don't know if it was the first or second one, but I remember vocalizing it and I was like, I kind of want to, go into Steadicam. And
Yeah.
it's even at I was afraid to even say it, it's almost kind
Wow.
of scary,
It
because
was that
it's
intimidating, huh?
yes, it's such a real thing. And it was such a big dream for me to do that. And then as I was finishing up school, one of my professors told me about John Perry, and I, kind of looked him up, and I was like, oh wow, this guy's the real deal. And I emailed him. I didn't hear anything for a few months, and then my professor said, "Oh, email him again. He's a busy guy." Emailed him again. He let me come on set and watch him work, and I can say without a doubt, like that's where, like, the hooks were in, and I was like, "This is what I want to do." I watched him. It was in the Opry, which is a very famous venue in Nashville. It's a big country music
Right.
venue where we are, but I watched him, walk up steps, go around a country artist, pause and then unravel around the artist and then go back down the steps, like all in one take. And, this is, of course, before gimbals, before, the electronic stabilization that we have now.
Sure.
And the shot was just perfect. It was
Wow.
amazing. Yeah. And, seeing him work, like I'm kind of getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. Like
Yeah.
that was what locked me in. And then I think the next day too, he was like, maybe he realized I was, into it and passionate about it. He let me come and watch him another day. I think it was the next
Wow.
day at another venue, and did another crazy move, live with a host doing a stand up, and they're introducing an artist on a stage, and he like went, did the intro, whatever, goes through a hallway, goes downstairs, zooming into the stage, and it was just amazing,
Wow.
watching him work. So that's a very, easy answer for me. Like those couple days were a very pivotal moment in my career.
How many questions did you ask while you were uh, with him? I know that when I was getting started, I would ask a ton of questions. People
Yeah,
probably on set. This is me as a PA.
yeah,
People would probably get annoyed, but I would ask 1,000 questions
Yes.
regarding their work, and not just camera operators, audio
Yeah.
guys, jib
Yeah.
operators, all
Hmm.
those.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
you you were very, very intrigued
Yes.
by the Steadicam, and that's what locked you in. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't like, I think because, I had to be like a fly on the wall. Um, so it's like, and even like after he did that shot on the second day, excuse me, he got me a spot in the TV truck so I could just watch his monitor. Um, so, I, it's almost like I was just kind of just watching this guy work, and watching him interact with his utility, his cable person,
Right.
and interact with the director and other people, on the set. So yeah, I didn't get to ask a lot of questions. In fact, and all this stuff. I mean, the guy's such a busy guy. I would email him occasionally, but we didn't have like a big dialogue or anything. But he really helped me get some of my first production assistant work. That year. I guess it was 2008. Um, it was during the whole housing crisis, and there
Right.
apparently there wasn't much work. I wasn't even aware I was going into a market, that didn't have a lot of work at the time.
Oh,
And
wow.
I remember, yeah, a production manager came around the corner, and he introduced us, and, oh, hey, here's Tony. He's trying to be a PA, blah blah blah, and that's how I got some of my first good production assistant work was through him. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So fast forward to you picking up your own Steadicam
Hmm.
operator. You start, I guess, marketing yourself, letting people know that you have it.
Yeah. So I think everyone has like a different way.
Mhm.
I I think everybody has a like a different way and a different journey of how they get to where they want to be. Um,
Right.
for me, it was I bought that Steadicam in, I think it was the summer of 2011, and those first 6 months or so, I was doing jobs, very low or no paying Steadicam type jobs for friends, clients that knew me well,
Right.
um, and I was terrible. So I think that first, I say the first 2 to 2.5 years was me just getting out there and getting my feet wet and getting on as many sets as possible and working as a Steadicam operator. I'd say at the end of year three, I started to feel like more of a competent Steadicam operator, where I was contributing,
Two
to the production creatively, and I had something to offer.
2 to 3
And
years into it after you
yeah,
purchased you.
yeah,
Wow.
I'd say so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I really love and respect the craft of Steadicam too. So I don't know that I'd say 2 to 3 years. Yeah, and even
Right.
to where you're comfortable saying I need X amount of dollars for my rate and X amount for my
Sure.
rental. To where you
Sure.
feel like, yeah, I deserve this.
Yeah.
one
Okay.
one of those
And
things.
did you do any other jobs in addition to that? Were you ever hired as a camera operator, sound, maybe as a videographer in general?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I would say, so I've been doing Steadicam for 10 years now,
Mm,
um, all the way up until, I don't know, I would say year seven through, up to now, like all I'm doing is Steadicam work, which is what I really wanted.
right.
But yeah, the first 6 years of me doing Steadicam, I wasn't able to only do Steadicam.
Right.
So
Right.
I'd still go, run a regular camera, especially in those first couple of years, I'd still go on set and do some grip type work, on small
Yeah.
productions and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's
I never did
awesome.
sound.
Never did.
You don't
That's
want me doing sound.
that's good. That's good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
And you always knew that you only wanted to do Steadicam. Like that was your happy place there.
Uh, yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Like it was a dream to just, travel around and only work as a Steadicam operator. Yeah.
And so in between shoots, when you weren't getting hired, how much would you practice Steadicam when you weren't being paid for it? Like, is there a point where you felt, okay, I think I'm at a place where not sort of out loud saying I don't need practice anymore, but you feel less and less inclined to practice, to do stuff outside of sort of in between jobs there?
So, in all honesty, um, I did not practice a lot. So
Okay,
I would say in the beginning, um, I would, put it on and walk around my apartment and
sure,
practice in that way, or pull all the stuff out and kind of clean things or rig things up,
got it.
in different ways that I wanted them to. But
Okay,
I can't say that I
no,
practiced
it's
like crazy or
that's
anything.
great to. So it so do you think that that would have kind of excelled you a little bit because, or maybe not because you just weren't getting the work anyways, or do you think that you would have
That
been a little more advanced?
that's a good question. It probably would have helped me a little bit. Yeah, had I had I practiced a little
Yeah.
more there in the beginning.
Yeah, because
Um,
yeah, I'm wondering, if you can go on set and kind of basically show off something that you've been
mhm,
practicing and learn,
yeah.
and give directors options of different types of shots that you can do,
Hmm.
maybe that would have resulted in more calls, you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
more referrals.
right. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I don't know, I don't know necessarily that it would have helped me like a substantial amount, but
Right.
I
It's
would
hard to
buy into
quantify
that.
that.
Yeah, I would say, it may have moved me along a little quicker, maybe 10, 15, 20% faster, I'd say, something like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And when you would get jobs, when you were still doing, still kind of trying to do only Steadicam, you were still doing other
Hmm.
jobs and whatnot. Would you take jobs and sort of inject Steadicam services in there?
Yeah, I would say I would, kind of, let people sort of know that I had the Steadicam,
Sure.
and all the way up until I did have it. Let's see, oh 08, oh 09, 10, 11. So it's like four-ish, 5 years. This is actually, I think this was crucial for me because I spent about 4 or 5 years building up a reputation for myself as,
Yeah.
a hard worker. I paid
Hmm.
attention. I bought into the production. I was engaged. I was useful. I was helpful. Um, I was a good to decent camera operator. I knew a little bit about lighting and,
Right.
setting up lights and breaking them down. And then kind of the same thing in the touring world, which is a whole other, version of production. But I think me doing that and setting up that, I guess, that brand for myself, um, then it's like, oh, okay, well, now this guy that we like here, now he has a Steadicam, so that it really helped me. Um,
Right.
yeah. And,
Great. So you mentioned, so let's get into kind of like the now, the more the broad scope of your work right now. You're working for the Titans. You do a lot of
mhm,
work for them in the NFL.
mhm,
You mentioned live music, sort of music
mhm.
videos. You mentioned touring. Explain a little
Yes.
bit what touring is.
So, like it's sort of like what you'd see, I guess, like in the movies, like when you're a roadie, out there with the band.
Sure.
Um,
All
like,
right.
yeah, like that's what I mean
You
by it.
just
Like I
follow the
did the
band
tour.
around.
Yeah, I did a big tour with Bon Jovi through Europe in 2019,
Come on.
for 10 weeks. Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah, but in that world, when you're part of the crew in that way. I was a part of there's a video crew, audio, there's lighting, there's
Yeah.
the back line that supports the band, and then it kind of breaks off from there. But I was a part of the video crew, so we built a massive video wall at every place. So it's like, yeah, I'm coming in as a Steadicam operator, but it kind of humbled me a little bit, because you have to really work your butt off and lift big heavy LED walls and work with the stage hands together.
Oh, because they
So
asked that you had to have kind of your hands on that as well.
yes, yeah, and like it's kind of a different thing. I know there are some Steadicam operators that maybe would have like white gloved it a little bit,
Mm,
to where they come in and they're only the Steadicam operator, but that wasn't necessarily the deal we had. Going in, I would have to do something, and I maybe could have pushed back a little bit, but that's not really in my nature.
mm.
Uh, to shy away from hard work, especially if my crew's busting their butt out there.
That's super interesting. That's a great approach on that. I mean, giving the client a little more than what is really your job description,
Hmm.
right? This time it could be building a wall, but on other jobs that I would get, I'll help them source a crew if they need
Yeah.
to.
Hmm.
Things that are not really in my job description, but
Yeah.
providing I have a whole episode on providing a service for your clients, and
Hmm.
kind of servicing and how we're basically, a professional like you and myself, we're expected to know what we're doing at this point.
Hmm.
You're expected to know how to manage a Steadicam operator, but we're really in the customer service industry as well. So like,
Yes.
servicing your clients, leaving a good impression on them, how helpful you were, how you just weren't the Steadicam operator, how they can trust that you could probably do other stuff, and forget that they're going to call you again. They're going to refer you to other
Right.
clients as well.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic that you did that. I think
Yeah.
that that's really, really cool. So how did
Yeah.
you get kind of in the mix, in the running for being the Steadicam operator for Bon Jovi for this tour?
Um, so it was, uh, I guess it was networking, and
Okay.
it's networking is something that I kind of had to learn as I went because, I'm kind of an introvert. I'm kind of a quiet person. I'm not
Okay.
out there shaking hands and introducing myself. So, I mean, I even had friends early on, explaining this to me. So I had to learn how to do that.
Got it. Got it.
Um, but I mean, it really was, I did that tour, Women of Faith. It was a Christian women's conference. I did that for 2.5 years or so. The people that I learned or are met from that, they, of course, were, great friends now.
Sure.
Well, then we did a tour with Oprah in 2014, which allowed
Wow.
me to, save up and buy more Steadicam stuff. But to answer your question, that touring family, that's what I call them, that network that I have, they threw my name in the hat for Bon Jovi because they knew that the director for Bon Jovi was interested in having a Steadicam out there with them. So
Wow.
one of those
That's
crazy
fantastic.
times, yeah, laying in bed, phone call. What are you doing this summer? It's insane how this
That's
happens.
awesome. And so now with the Titans, how long have you been with them?
To be honest, since that's kind of right when I got the Steadicam, I think I
Wow.
want to say I want to say the first game I did, I just did a half of a game. It was Christmas Eve, and I think it was 2011. And then ever
So,
since then, I do all their home games.
oh wow. And how did you get that connection there?
So basically, at MTSU, I was doing basketball and football just for their jumbotron. Well, that
Okay.
same producer that you know produced their jumbotron shows and crewed it and everything also did it for the Titans. So
Mm.
yeah, me buying a Steadicam, he was like, oh, let's bring you in for a Titans game, and they loved the look of it, and the rest is history, really. Yeah,
And you've been there ever since.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, like this year, I've had a couple friends fill in for me because of other jobs come along, or longer form jobs. So, but
Wow.
yeah, it's
Now
been a nice
you're getting too
nice
big for the
consistent.
Titans now.
No, it's there. I really appreciate everything that has done for my career,
Right.
and what they have done for my career, and also just simply knowing that every fall I'm going to have about, what is it, about 12 days or so
Mm.
guaranteed Steadicam work spread out throughout the fall.
Right.
It's very, very helpful.
So you mentioned that you attended MTSU.
Hmm.
How has attending there helped your career?
Um, I would say for one, like a very obvious one is the networking aspect of it.
Sure.
Something that I wasn't aware of. I get out of school and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm here, I'm ready. Somebody call me, and it was
Right.
crickets. It was very scary. I didn't work much at all in the first 6 months, but
Wow.
then friends from MTSU, people that had graduated a year or two prior, they started pulling me in to do production assistant type work. So that's one way. But also, you know, that is a very normal question. Would you still go to school? Do you need to go to college or anything to
Right.
work in production? And my answer is not necessarily, or not necessarily that you have to go to college or get a degree or certification. This industry or this job is very much experience based, and
Sure.
and learning your craft on the job. But I also do say I wouldn't change anything. I loved that I went to MTSU, and I wouldn't change that. I think I got a great
That's
education,
good.
and yeah, it was a very good base in TV production and film studies, and yeah,
Fantastic. Fantastic.
yeah,
So you mentioned that you now recently were able to shoot for CNBC for the
yeah.
first time, a
Well,
national network. Did I get the right one?
oh no, it was CBS.
CBS.
Uh,
Sorry.
it's
So
okay.
you were able to shoot for CBS, a network channel, for the first time on an NFL game.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool. What's the biggest difference between that and shooting internally for the Titans?
So, for the Titans and, working for the Jumbotron, it's more fan reactions. It's, the promotional commercial type things during TV timeouts and whatnot. I'm not shooting much of the game. I used to shoot some of the game when the networks would take my feed and I would be like allowed to run out there and go around them for touchdowns and whatnot.
Mm,
But now,
that's
yeah,
the first thing
now
that comes to
more,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah, we see
now
that
more
all the
networks,
time.
though, they're bringing their own Steadicam operator. It's much more common now.
Right.
So yeah, doing that CBS game, I had to be 100% engaged in the guy. I had to watch the game. I had to pay attention to the game. Um, and a big part of it is just your positioning.
Yeah.
So I mean, you spend the majority of your time, okay, change possession. Mahomes
Yeah.
just threw an interception. Okay, now I have to jog over to the other side of
To
the
the other
field and
end.
just be ready and
Right.
be ready to bring or try to bring Ben Roethlisberger out onto the field. Um,
Right.
so that's really the big difference.
You
To
have to
me,
pay
they were
attention.
both just as exhausting.
So there's a lot of I guess you were talking about you do a lot of fan reactions and
Hmm.
um is there a lot of marketing that goes on there, like things that where
Yeah.
they have to show some products or whatever it is and
Hmm.
they just need a specific shot as the background?
Yeah. Well, like at those games they have um, I don't know. It's kind of silly. It's like Kroger tailgate toss. You know what I mean? And
Right, right.
they're doing something where it's like they're playing cornhole or something, or the mascot is throwing a football from one of the upper deck and trying to land it in a truck. And if it does, this
Mm,
guy wins a truck or something. So
got
we would
it.
be there for those types of things. Yeah,
What are those called? Activations or something like that?
I think I'm not sure.
I've
Yeah.
heard the different events call it different things.
Hmm.
Um, so you're now in Beijing. This is pretty awesome. How did you get in the running to go and shoot the Olympics?
It's pretty wild. So I'd say I'd have to give a shout out to my friend Mike Germond, who's a Steadicam operator in Orlando. He threw my name in the hat for this, basically.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and actually, I think it was uh, the whole political campaign of like 2020, like all the news coverage.
Right.
He brought me in for a job, like got me on a job. Um, and I think I just made a good impression. I think it was working
Right.
for NBC. It was like the Morning Joe
Sure.
show in Des Moines, Iowa. It was kind of the first part of the whole campaign year, all that coverage. And then that led to, I think it was like 2 weeks from that, I was in New Hampshire
Mm-hmm.
doing a whole big chunk. It was like the primaries or something.
Okay.
Um, Sorry, I honestly don't remember what I did 2 weeks ago sometimes. So, but you're getting another long answer to this. But
Right.
in a nutshell, I think I proved myself, doing live television as a Steadicam operator. I made a good impression. The directors, or
Sure.
I guess I had a good name within the family of directors with NBC. Um, so, yeah, it got to where, especially because the Super Bowl was going on at the same time of the
Mm,
Olympics.
that's right.
Um, yes, so they're basically thin on Steadicam operators, and they just needed somebody, and it ended up being me. It's like, here you go, here's this guy. He did some work for you guys, and
What was your
yeah.
reaction when you found out that they selected you and they want you to come on to shoot in Beijing?
So I try to not get too excited until I'm there. Even you know, especially in our current like COVID world of,
Sure.
I mean, you could just get yanked so fast. You just pulled away.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it's sort of like I think in November I was on a job and Mike was like, you might get a call from the director, you know, and the director calls me and we kind of have a nice conversation and he's like, okay, you know, I'll have such and such get in touch with you. Okay, they get in touch with you. Then you fill out all these forms, and you fill out more forms, and
Right.
then at some point, I think it was maybe 3 weeks before we left, maybe well 6 weeks maybe, to the production manager or hiring manager. I said, "Am I on this? Am I locked in? I just kind of need to know." And I was telling her, you know, I'm starting to turn down other normal work at home, and she said, "Yes, you're booked. You're locked in."
That's
So
good. That's good.
I
Sometimes they're
probably,
not clear.
no, yeah, but I once I heard that. I think I like, you know, hung up the phone, jumped in the air or something. Like, I mean, it was a big celebration. Like, because
That's good.
like this is like doing what I'm doing right now. This is I really love doing this type of work.
Yeah.
Uh, Live type Steadicam work in a studio is it's a blast. I love all the Steadicam work I do, but I really am enjoying
Right.
doing this right now.
And what kind of assignments do they have you? Do they give you an itinerary of everything you're going to be doing, or is it kind of a day by day?
I would say it's more of a day by day type thing.
Okay.
And even so I think because everything has just been so chaotic, with the Super Bowl happening, which they anticipated, you know, they
Mm-hmm.
knew that was going to happen.
Sure.
And even like the more we're hearing about it, like, you know, I think, I don't know, weeks ago, you know, Mike Tirico was going to be with us the entire time, you know,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, Mike Tirico is going to be here. Then he's going to go be at the Super Bowl, do the Super Bowl. Then he's going to come back to Beijing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask because I've been hearing about it everywhere with regards to being in Beijing, China, with everything that's going on, with the pandemic, political things like
Hmm.
that, the Chinese government. Um, there have been a cause for concern with regards to safety. They were talking
Hmm.
about the athletes out there. You're working the event. Have you felt any sort of any tension on that end regarding like the people that you interact with out there, like in general? Have they given you any safety guidelines, where not to go, what not to say, things like that,
Hmm.
with regards to dealing with people out there?
Well, we are very much so in a bubble, like, and
Okay.
they would call it, I think they're calling it like a closed loop type system. So, like where I am right now, it's called the IBC, the International Broadcasting Center. And
Okay.
then within that, you know, each country or most countries have a major, you know, network or something that occupies a portion of this building. And it's a large, massive convention center
Wow.
type building. And then they put in, you know, their own studio space and office spaces and storage, and it's huge. Um, but basically, we're not really allowed to go anywhere, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
Wow.
I'm going
Okay.
to, excuse me, yeah,
Sure.
you know, from here, I'm gonna, you know, go out here. It's, you know, all very fenced in, so people can't come in and we can't go out. I'll get on a bus. That bus will go out of a gate, and then I'm in the
Wow.
city technically, but that bus is not stopping. You know, it brings me right
Sure.
to my hotel.
Wow.
You know, open a gate. You know, the bus goes in. They close the gate. I get off the bus and go into the hotel. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a very, and to be honest, it's a very impressive and complex transportation system. And
Sure.
I mean, they even have essentially what is like an Uber type service, but it's only for, you know, Olympic staff, crew, athletes, stuff
Hmm.
like that. Uh, you know, to where you do not interact with the driver. You know, they only can take you certain places, you know, to other
Right.
hotels that are within the loop or other venues that are within the loop. So
And
yeah,
that's only for you guys, right? Other countries have their own form or means, or is it for everybody that's kind of
it's
working there?
everyone. Yeah, it's
Okay.
everybody. Yeah. Um, and then on to answer like safety, I mean, I would say like coming here, I was a little apprehensive or nervous, just about like what's this going to be like?
Yeah,
We're going during COVID times. I
sure.
went to Tokyo as well, but it was different. Here um, they're just taking it way, way serious. Like
Mm,
it's, but yeah, I do feel quite safe. You know,
that's
it
good.
was nerve wracking getting here and very stressful. But safety wise, hopefully I'm good tomorrow. But we're
Yeah,
tested every
yeah,
day. Everyone's tested every day. Um, I mean, like I'm not wearing a mask right now, but it's because nobody is in this room with me. And if I got up to walk down the hall, I'd put my mask on.
got it.
So
And that's
yeah,
what they require out
yes,
there. And
yeah,
of course, they require vaccinations, I'm sure,
yes, yeah.
something like
Everyone
that
is
has to
required
be
to be
vaccinated.
vaccinated. Yeah, and then you know people are they would get here and they would have to quarantine because they would still have some trace of COVID in their body.
Right.
So, and even like what the NBC doctor that's here with us, we had a meeting recently, and he said, you know, basically China's, I guess it's like their threshold or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like 3 times the, I don't even know how to put this into words, but if you're in the U.S., the majority of these people that are quarantining would be free to walk around and go to the grocery store and do whatever. But
Right.
here, because they have, this tiny little amount of COVID in their body and they're still not, what's it called? Contagious. They're still not
Mm,
contagious. Um, they have to quarantine because they're not messing with it at all.
wow.
So yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to sort of come on the show and talk to us about your work and your overall uh, body of work and kind of how you got there. I really do appreciate it. I love you sharing your story, and definitely am envious of kind of your current position right now. That's pretty awesome. And stay safe out there for sure. When do you guys get back?
The 22nd, we leave,
Okay.
and it's about 35 hours of travel.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah,
I hope you stay safe out there. You're doing a phenomenal job, and yeah, keep grinding, man. I appreciate you
I
coming on.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So there you have it. That is my interview with the Tony Reyes. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And I thought it was a fun one. I really enjoy learning other people's tactics and strategies and approach, and especially if they have a niche in the industry. So that was a very insightful one for me. So with I'm going to be putting links to Tony and his work on the show notes for this episode. And again, bear with me on this new rebrand, this new move. You're going to see a lot of changes going on the social media, on the websites and all that stuff. That's still stuff that's kind of happening in real time right now. So bear with me on all those changes. But yeah, welcome to the, once again, Miami Video Podcast. It's so cool to say that now. I've been saying iFilmmaker for such a long time now. I think this is almost episode 200 almost. I think this might be 199 or something like that. But anyways, glad you guys were able to tune in, and I'll see you on the next episode of the iFilmmaker Podcast.